I hold in my hands a diary found in the sands of the Arabian desert. Its pages are soaked through with blood and salt. On the cover, faded letters. Anna Kovalyova, if found, delivered to Marina Solovyova, Perm. I am Marina Solovyova. Anna is my best friend, who vanished 3 years ago after her release from prison. Everyone thought she'd run from her past. But the final entry in the diary reads, "If you're reading this, it means I made it out. But now they'll come for you." Perm greeted me the way it always does, indifferent and mundane. November rain drummed on the taxi roof, streaming down the windows in murky rivulets. The city beyond the glass looked gray and blurred, like a watercolor painting someone had accidentally splashed with water. Khrushchev-era 9-story apartment blocks, panel buildings with peeling plaster, the occasional shop sign, all of it flickered past the window as we drove from Bolshoye Savino Airport to my place on Kuibyshev Street. I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes, and tried to shake off the exhaustion. The Dubai assignment had eaten up a whole week, every day crammed with meetings, interviews, traveling. I'd spoken with Russian immigrants who'd moved to the Emirates for a better life, recorded their success stories, photographed them against backdrops of skyscrapers and man-made beaches. The material turned out dull, formulaic, exactly what our paper, Kamsky Reporter, needed. Readers love stories about someone getting rich and now drinking champagne on a yacht. It gives them hope that someday their own lives will change for the better. The driver dropped me off at my building. I paid, pulled my suitcase from the trunk, and trudged toward the door, trying to open an umbrella with one hand. No luck. A gust of wind tore it away and sent it tumbling across the courtyard like a tumbleweed. I waved it off, decided not to chase it, and just ran for the entrance through the rain. My hair was instantly soaked, cold drops trickling down the collar of my jacket. The intercom, as always, wasn't working. I pushed the door, unlocked, climbed to the third floor up scratched steps, past walls covered in marker graffiti and gouges in the plaster. Standard scenery for a residential district in Perm. Nothing ever changes. At my apartment door, I stopped, digging through my bag for keys. That's when I noticed the mailbox was overflowing. Papers stuck out from the slot, some envelopes clearly dampened by rain that blew into the entryway through a broken window on the landing. I opened the box and pulled out a stack of mail. Advertising flyers, utility bills, some bank mailings, and one large envelope that immediately caught my attention. Thick cream-colored paper, unusual stamps with Arabic script, a smudged customs stamp. No return address, only my name and address written in block letters. To Marina Solovyova, Perm, 15 Kuibyshev Street, apartment 42. I turned the envelope over in my hands. Heavy, something bulky inside, clearly not just a letter. My heart beat faster. I couldn't explain why, but this envelope filled me with dread, as if I were holding something dangerous, something that would change my life. Finally found my keys, unlocked the door, and entered the apartment. The smell of staleness hit my nose. I hadn't aired it out in a week. The windows had been closed. I dropped my suitcase in the hallway, peeled off my wet jacket, went to the kitchen, turned on the kettle, took a jar of instant coffee from the cupboard, sat down at the table, placed the envelope in front of me, and stared at it for a long time, not daring to open it. Arabic stamps. Dubai. I'd just gotten back from there. Coincidence? The kettle boiled. I made coffee, took a large scalding gulp, and finally tore open the envelope. Inside were two things: a battered notebook with a dark brown leather cover, worn and stained, and a sealed letter in a white envelope. I picked up the letter first. The handwriting on the envelope seemed familiar, but I couldn't immediately remember whose it was. Opened the envelope, unfolded the page, and froze. Mariska, if you're reading this, the plan worked, or it didn't, and I'm dead. Either way, this diary had to reach you. I knew you wouldn't forget me. Sorry I disappeared back then. I had no choice. Read the diary. You'll understand everything, and take care of yourself. They might come for you next. A. Anka. This was Anka Kovalyova's handwriting, my best friend since our school days. Anka, with whom I'd studied journalism at Perm University, shared a dorm room, dreamed of a brilliant future. Anka, who fell for the wrong guy, helped him with some scam and got 5 years in prison for fraud. Anka, who 3 years ago walked out of Women's Prison Colony Number 6 in Solikamsk and vanished, never answering a single call, a single letter. I'd tried to find her then. Went to Solikamsk, spoke with the prison administration, with social workers. Only learned that Anna Kovalyova had been released on April 19, 2022, and left the facility. Where she went, unknown. Her parents had disowned her during the investigation. There were no other relatives. She simply dissolved into nothing. I searched for her for 6 months, then gave up. Decided she'd started a new life somewhere far away and didn't want to remember the past. Didn't want to remember me either. And now, this letter. They might come for you next. Who are they? Next after whom? My hands trembled as I picked up the notebook. Opened the first page. The handwriting was uneven, hurried. In places the letters sprawled as if Anka had been writing in the dark or on the move. April 15, 2022, Prison Colony Number 6, Solikamsk. 4 days until release. Can't sleep. Fear twists my stomach. Yesterday, a woman came to see me in my unit. Called herself Fatima. Said she had an offer I couldn't refuse. I laughed. After 5 years behind bars, I thought nothing could surprise me anymore. I was wrong. I read on, forgetting about the coffee cooling in my mug. Outside the window, the rain intensified, drumming on the windowsill. The apartment was cold. They hadn't turned the heat on yet, even though it was mid-November. I draped a blanket that hung over the chair back around my shoulders and continued reading. Fatima spoke Russian with an accent, but clearly, elegant, in an expensive suit, with gold bracelets on her wrists. Didn't look like a lawyer or social worker, more like a businesswoman from a glossy magazine. She said she represented the interests of an influential person from the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Rashid Al Mansour. I'd never heard of him. We sat in the visitation room, at a table littered with crumbs from someone's pastries and a plastic cup with tea dregs. Guard Zenaida Petrovna stood by the door, pretending not to listen, but I knew she was catching every word. He needs a wife, Fatima said calmly, as if offering me a waitressing job. European features, knowledge of Russian and English, age 25 to 35. You're a perfect match. I laughed in her face. Is this some new human trafficking scheme? Thanks, not interested. But Fatima wasn't offended. She pulled a photograph from her purse and placed it on the table between us. A man about 40, in a pristine white dishdasha, with intelligent dark eyes and a slight smile. Handsome, I had to admit. Well-groomed face, short, neat beard, expensive watch on his wrist. Sheikh Rashid is a respected man, Fatima continued quietly, leaning toward me across the table. He owns several oil companies, invests in real estate around the world. He needs a wife to start a family. His first wife died 10 years ago, no children. According to his family's tradition, the new wife must be foreign, fair-skinned. You'll receive UAE citizenship, a villa in Dubai, monthly support of $50,000. Complete freedom of action, except for mandatory attendance at family events. I stared at the photograph and tried to understand if I was dreaming. $50,000 a month, more than I'd earned in my entire life before prison. And what does he want in return? I asked, still not believing it. To be a sex slave? Churn out babies on an assembly line? To be his wife? Fatima shrugged. To give him an heir, that's all. Sheikh Rashid is a modern man. He doesn't demand obedience or seclusion from his wife. You'll be able to travel, pursue your interests, see friends. The only condition, represent his family with dignity. I leaned back in my chair, remembered my life before prison, a dorm room, a job at a district newspaper for 20,000 rubles, debt from loans, never enough money even for decent food. Then the thing with Maxime, who talked me into helping him with documents, without mentioning the documents were fake. Investigation, trial, sentence. My parents turned away, unable to forgive the disgrace. Maxime fled abroad, leaving me alone to shovel through this shit. And now, on the outside, a dorm room for $5,000 a month awaited me if I was lucky. Work as a cleaning woman or cashier. With a criminal record, they won't take you anywhere else. Poverty, humiliation, slow extinction in this gray city. I need to think about it, I finally said. Fatima nodded, pulled out a business card, placed it on the table. Of course, but time is short. The Sheikh is flying to Dubai the day after tomorrow. If you agree, tomorrow evening a car will meet you at the prison gates after your release. A black Mercedes. The driver will wait until 10 p.m. If you don't show up, it means you refused. The choice is yours, Anna. She stood, adjusted the purse on her shoulder, and headed for the exit. At the door, she turned back. By the way, I was once in your position too. A poor girl from the slums of Morocco, married a wealthy man, 5 years living in luxury, then divorced with a good settlement. Now I have my own agency, an apartment in London, and an account in a Swiss bank. Think about that. She left. I sat there staring at the business card. Gold embossing, Arabic script, a phone number with a UAE country code. For 3 days, I didn't sleep. Lay on my bunk in the cell, listened to my cellmates snoring, and thought. Marinka had written me every month for all 5 years. Sent books, money for packages, photos of perm, promised to meet me after release. I could come to her, live in her one-room Khrushchev apartment on the couch, look for work that wouldn't hire me with a record, be a burden to the only person who hadn't abandoned me, or try this insane chance, take the risk. After all, it couldn't be worse than prison. And if it turned out to be a trap, I'd grown up in Perm, in a working-class neighborhood. I knew how to stand up for myself. I'd manage. On April 19th, I walked out of the prison. 2 bags of belongings, a release certificate, 500 rubles they gave you on the way out. I stood by the gates for about 10 minutes, looked at the road leading to Solikamsk. The bus to Perm left in 2 hours. I could get on it, go to Marinka, try to start a normal life. But then I remembered her apartment, cramped, with a constantly dripping faucet in the kitchen and mold in the bathroom corners. Remembered how she complained in letters about a pittance salary that barely covered food. Didn't want to be her burden. And then a black Mercedes pulled up. Tinted windows, silent engine. The door opened. Fatima stepped out in a light pantsuit. Glad you made the right decision, Anna. I nodded silently, threw my bags in the back seat, and got in the car. Soft leather interior, smell of expensive perfume, air conditioning. So strange after 5 years of stench and stuffiness. They took me to a hotel in downtown Perm. Not some hostel, but the Ural, the city's most expensive hotel. A deluxe suite on the 9th floor, a bed the size of my former cell, a bathtub with jacuzzi, view of the Kama River. I stood at the window looking at the river, at the bridges, at the lights of the city where I'd grown up, and felt like an alien. Fatima sent dinner to the room: steak, salad, a bottle of red wine. I hadn't drunk in 5 years. After the first glass, my head spun. After the second, I cried, not knowing why myself. In the morning, a knock at the door woke me. Fatima, still elegant as ever, with a suitcase in her hands. "Good morning, Anna. Departure at noon. Through Moscow to Dubai. Here's clothing for the flight, documents, money for initial expenses." She handed me an envelope. I opened it. $5,000 cash. $100 bills, crisp and new. I counted them 3 times, not believing my eyes. "This is an advance," Fatima explained. "Buy yourself something at duty free. Update your wardrobe. Everything you need awaits you in Dubai. But a woman always needs the little things." I changed into the clothes she brought: expensive jeans, a cashmere sweater, a leather jacket. Everything fit perfectly, as if tailored for me. Fatima probably found out my measurements beforehand. At the airport, we checked in without waiting in line. Business class? I was flying business class for the first time. Wide seats that recline into beds. Champagne. Hot towels. A flight attendant who smiled not from politeness, but genuinely. I sat by the window, watched Perm shrink below. Gray blocks, the snake of the Kama, forests all around. Everything grew smaller, more distant. My former life was staying down there, and ahead was the unknown. I looked up from the diary, checked my watch. 1:30 in the morning. The rain hadn't stopped. I poured myself more coffee from the kettle, lit a cigarette, though I'd quit smoking 6 months ago, but now my hands reached for the pack I kept in the kitchen, just in case. Returned to reading. The next entry was written on the plane. April 18, 2022. Flight Moscow, Dubai. Can't believe I'm here. Next to me, Fatima sleeps covered with a blanket. I'm drinking champagne, my third glass already, and trying to process what's happening. Outside the window, clouds, white, fluffy, like cotton. The sun is setting, painting the sky in pink gold hues. Beautiful. I'd forgotten how beautiful it is, simply to look out a plane window and see sunset above the clouds. I'm thinking about Marinka. Wanted to call her from the airport in Moscow, but changed my mind. What would I say? "Hi, I'm marrying an Arab sheikh and moving to Dubai." She'd think I'd lost my mind, or gotten caught up in some cult. No, better to write her when everything's settled. I'll explain. She'll understand. Marinka always understood me. I wonder what awaits me there, in Dubai. I hope I won't regret my choice. Though honestly, even if this turns out to be a mistake, at least I'll see the world beyond Perm and Solikamsk once in my life. That's already something. I closed the diary, set it on the table, stood up, went to the window. Outside was night, rain, an empty courtyard with solitary street lamps. Ordinary Perm, my city, and Anka had flown off to a fairy tale, to Dubai, to a sheikh, to a luxurious life. And for 3 years I'd known nothing about her, thought she'd simply forgotten about me. But now I held her diary in my hands, and a letter with a warning. They might come for you next. Who are they? And what happened to Anka in that Dubai? I knew I couldn't sleep until I'd read the diary to the end. Sat back down at the table, opened the notebook to the next page, and continued reading to the sound of rain outside the window. I continued reading Anka's diary, and with each page the reality outside the window, rainy November Perm, receded further and further. I felt transported there, to scorching Dubai, to the life she'd begun 3 years ago. April 22, 2022. Sheikh Rashid's Villa, Dubai. 4 days since I arrived. Don't know where to start. It's like a dream, or like a movie set about Arab sheikhs that I once watched on TV in my cell, except here everything's real. They met me at Dubai airport early in the morning. The heat hit like an oven when I stepped off the plane. 42 degrees Celsius showed on the terminal thermometer. I was suffocating from the humidity and temperature, while Fatima walked beside me as if nothing was wrong, not a drop of sweat on her. No passport control. Fatima led me through some VIP lounge with leather sofas and fountains. Showed her passport to a guard. They didn't even glance at mine. Just nodded and opened the door. Outside, a white Bentley with a driver in a pristine white shirt was waiting. He silently took our bags, opened the door. The interior was ice cold from air conditioning. After the street heat, I actually shivered. We drove along a multi-lane highway. I looked out the window and couldn't tear my eyes away. Skyscrapers of glass and steel reaching into the sky. Palm trees lining the road. Expensive cars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, driving like ordinary sedans. On the right, the Burj Khalifa appeared, the world's tallest building. I'd seen it in photographs, but in person it looked unreal, a needle piercing the sky. Impressive, isn't it? Fatima smiled, noticing my gaze. I didn't expect it to be so rich? She laughed. Dubai is a city of contrasts. Old markets neighbor ultra-modern malls, poverty and luxury, tradition and progress. You'll get used to it. The Sheikh's villa is in the Jumeirah district, an elite neighborhood where the Emirates' wealthiest people live. We turned off the highway onto a narrow road surrounded by high walls. Guards at the gate, 2 men with automatic weapons. Fatima showed a pass. The gate slowly opened. I didn't immediately realize we'd arrived. Thought it was a park or botanical garden. Enormous grounds with perfect lawns, fountains, flower beds, palm trees, shrubs trimmed into whimsical shapes. And in the distance, a mansion. 3 stories, snow white, with columns and arches in Arabic style, like a palace from Arabian tales. The car stopped at the main entrance. The driver opened the door. I got out and just stood there with my mouth open. Fatima took me by the elbow. "Welcome to your new home, Anna." Inside was even more luxurious. Marble floors with patterns, crystal chandeliers the size of a car, Persian rugs on the walls, gold trim everywhere, on the doors, on the stair railings, on picture frames. Not tacky gold, but elegant, understated. We were greeted by a woman about 50 in a traditional black dress. Fatima introduced her as the head housekeeper, Maria, a Filipina who'd worked in the house for 10 years. "Maria will show you to your quarters," Fatima said. "Rest after your journey. Dinner this evening. You'll meet the sheikh." Maria led me to the second floor up the marble staircase. The corridor was wide, with high ceilings and paintings on the walls, desert landscapes, Arabic calligraphy. We stopped at double doors of dark wood with carved patterns. "Your bedroom, madam." Maria opened the door. I walked in and froze again. The room was larger than my entire former apartment in Perm. Enormous canopy bed, plush carpets, a sofa and armchairs by the window, plasma TV on the wall, a separate walk-in closet, bathroom with jacuzzi and a shower stall the size of a sauna. "If you need anything, press the button on the nightstand," Maria explained in a quiet voice. "I'll come, or any other maid." "How many of you work here?" I asked, sinking onto the edge of the bed. 6 maids, 2 cooks, a gardener, a driver, security. We all live in a separate wing. We don't disturb the family unless necessary. Family. She meant me. I was the sheikh's family. Still couldn't believe it. When Maria left, I undressed and lay on the bed. The silk linens were cool and incredibly soft. I closed my eyes and instantly fell into sleep, woke to a knock at the door. Outside it was already getting dark. The clock showed 7:30 in the evening. I'd slept almost 6 hours. Madam, dinner in half an hour. Maria's voice through the door. I've prepared a dress for you. I got up, went to the closet. A long evening gown in dark blue hung on the rack, modest but elegant. Nearby lay low-heeled shoes, matched perfectly to the color. Changed clothes, looked at myself in the mirror, didn't recognize myself. Tanning salon bronzed skin, neat styling they'd done at the Moscow airport, expensive dress. I looked like a wealthy woman, not like Anka Kovalyova from a working-class Perm neighborhood who'd spent 5 years mopping floors in the prison cafeteria. Maria escorted me downstairs to the dining room. A long, dark wood table, set for two, candles in tall holders, the scent of jasmine and some Eastern incense. I sat and waited. About 5 minutes later, he entered the dining room. Sheikh Rashid Al-Mansour. In person, he looked younger than in the photograph. Tall, about 6'3", athletic build, traditional white dish dasha perfectly pressed, short neat beard, dark eyes that looked calm and appraising. Good evening, Anna. He spoke English with a slight accent. I hope the flight was comfortable. Yes, thank you. I stood, not knowing how to behave. Shake hands? Bow? He approached, took my hand and kissed my wrist, a traditional Arab gesture of respect for a woman. Please sit. You must be hungry after your journey. We sat. Maids began serving dishes. Hummus, tabbouleh, falafel, lamb with rice, grilled vegetables. Everything smelled incredible. I realized I really was hungry. Last ate on the plane that morning. Fatima said you liked it here. The sheikh took a glass of water. No alcohol on the table. Muslims don't drink. That's good. I want you to feel at home. The house is very beautiful. I carefully tried the hummus. The taste was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Yes, I don't suffer from modesty. He smiled faintly. But wealth is a responsibility. I try to use it wisely. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I caught his gaze on me. He was studying me, as if appraising a purchase. It was unpleasant, but I tried not to show it. Anna, let's be clear about everything right away, the sheikh finally said, setting down his fork. Our marriage is a contract, a business arrangement. I don't require love or devotion from you, only the fulfillment of certain obligations. Which ones exactly? I looked him in the eye. Attendance at family events and official receptions as my wife, observance of my family's traditions in public, and in a year or two, birth of an heir, a boy who will continue my line. And if it's a girl? We'll try again, he shrugged. But I'm hoping for a son. I was silent, processing the information. It was cold, calculated, but honest. No illusions about love or romance. What do I get in return? I asked. Everything you see around you. The villa, servants, money. $50,000 monthly for your personal needs. The ability to travel, study, pursue whatever you want. In 3 months, you'll receive UAE citizenship and a passport. After the birth of an heir, if you want a divorce, you'll receive a settlement of $5 million. $5 million. I mentally converted it to rubles and nearly choked on my water. It was a fortune. I could buy an apartment in Perm, help Marinka, want for nothing the rest of my life. Are there restrictions? I asked. Naturally, you cannot leave the villa without permission or escort. You cannot interact with men without my presence. You cannot consume alcohol. You must dress modestly in public. Standard rules for a Muslim's wife. So I'm basically imprisoned? It's not imprisonment, he frowned. It's protection. Dubai is a safe city, but you're a beautiful European woman. You need security. Besides, I have many enemies in business. I can't risk your safety. It sounded plausible and simultaneously frightening. A gilded cage, beautiful, comfortable, but still a cage. I'll think about it, I said. There's no time for thinking. The sheikh rose from the table. Tomorrow evening, the engagement. My brothers, uncles, their wives will come. A small family ceremony. Day after tomorrow, nikah, religious marriage. In a week, a large reception for friends and business partners. Fatima has organized everything. You only need to be present and look happy. He headed for the exit, stopped at the door. Anna, I understand this is a strange situation for you, but believe me, I'm not a villain. I'm just a businessman solving his problems by available means. I need you. In return, I'm giving you a life you couldn't have dreamed of. It's a fair deal. He left. I remained sitting at the table, staring at the half-eaten dishes. A bitter taste appeared in my mouth, despite the delicious food. I'd sold myself, agreed to become merchandise, an incubator for a rich man's heir. But there was no choice, no way back. They'd taken my passport at the airport supposedly for document processing. The money was gone. I didn't even know the address of the Russian consulate in Dubai. I was trapped, beautiful, gilded, but trapped. I turned the page of the diary. The next entry was dated a week later. April 29th, 2022. I'm married, officially the wife of Sheikh Rashid Al Mansour. Feels strange. The engagement ceremony took place in a large hall on the first floor. About 50 people came. The Sheikh's relatives, men in white dishdashas, women in black abayas, some with faces uncovered, some in niqabs where only the eyes were visible. Everyone looked at me with curiosity. I was the only European in the room. Felt like an exhibit in a museum. Fatima stayed close, translating, introducing me. This is Khalid, the senior wife of Sheikh Rashid's brother. This is Layla, his niece. This is Khalid, the Sheikh's younger brother. Names jumbled in my head, faces blurred together. I smiled, nodded, tried to remember at least something. The sheikh was formal and cold. We sat side by side on a sofa. He held my hand, but I felt it was just a performance for the relatives, a demonstration that he was married again, that everything was proper and correct. The imam read prayers in Arabic. The sheikh repeated the words of the vow. I repeated after the interpreter the words of consent. The whole thing took about 20 minutes. Then they handed us a certificate of nikah, religious marriage, officially registered at the local registry office the next day. I was Mrs. Al Mansour, wife of one of the Emirates' wealthiest men. After the nikah, there was a large reception. 150 guests in a huge tent set up in the garden. Musicians, dancers, tables with enough food for half a city. Fireworks. The sheikh walked me around to the guests, introduced me to partners, friends. Everyone congratulated us, wished us happiness. Some women looked envious, some men with interest, quickly hiding their glances when the sheikh turned. I smiled until my cheeks ached, said memorized phrases of gratitude, played the role of happy bride. But inside I was empty. That night, when the guests had dispersed, the sheikh walked me to my bedroom. Good night, Anna. Tomorrow morning, I'm flying to Abu Dhabi on business. I'll be back in a week. Fatima will stay with you. If you need anything, ask her or Maria. He kissed me on the cheek and left for his bedroom at the opposite end of the corridor. First wedding night, and we didn't even sleep in the same room. I lay on the bed without undressing and stared at the ceiling. Outside the window, a fountain murmured in the garden. Somewhere far away, peacocks cried. Turns out the sheikh has a small zoo on the grounds. What had I done? Sold myself for comfort? For money? I'm in a castle, like a princess from a fairy tale. Except the prince is cold and distant, and the castle looks more like a prison. The next morning, the sheikh really did leave. I was left alone with the servants and Fatima. What should I do? I asked her at breakfast. Whatever you want. Fatima shrugged. You can read in the library, swim in the pool, watch television, walk in the garden. You have complete freedom within the villa. And going outside the gates? Only with security, and preferably after notifying me or the sheikh. It's for your safety. I spent that day exploring the house. Library on the first floor, thousands of books in Arabic and English, home theater with a wall-sized screen, gym with treadmills and exercise equipment, heated pool, garden with rare plants brought from around the world. I had everything, except freedom. I looked up from the diary, rubbed my eyes. Outside the window, dawn was beginning to break. Gray perm morning, quiet and cold. I stood, went to the window, looked at the empty courtyard, at the playground with rusty swings. Anka had traded this grayness for a gilded cage, and at first it even seemed she liked it, or convinced herself she did. But something went wrong. Otherwise, why would she have written that warning in the letter? They might come for you next. I returned to the table, poured myself the dregs of cold coffee, and continued reading. The next entries described Anka's monotonous life at the villa: morning yoga, reading books, Arabic lessons with a visiting teacher, long hours by the pool. The sheikh appeared once a week, had a polite dinner with her, discussed weather and news, then retreated to his bedroom. June 15, 2022, 2 months in Dubai, starting to get used to it, or going numb from idleness, don't know which. Every day the same. Up at 7, yoga, breakfast, reading, pool, lunch, afternoon nap, evening walk in the garden, dinner, sleep. Fatima comes every day. We talk. She's become something like a friend. The only person here I can talk to like a human being. Yesterday, I asked her directly, Fatima, the other wives, the ones you selected for sheikhs, are they all happy? She thought for a moment, sipping tea from a thin porcelain glass. Happiness is a relative concept. They live in comfort. They don't need to worry about money, work, the future. Isn't that happiness? But are they free? Free from what? From poverty? From violence? From a life where you have to survive every day? Yes, they're free from that. I understood she was evading the answer, but I didn't press. At night, I can't sleep, thinking about Marinka. Wrote her an email. The sheikh allowed me to use the internet, but checks the history. I'm careful. Wrote that everything's fine, that I'm in Europe, working, settled in. Didn't specify where or doing what. She replied, happy for me, asks me to visit when possible. I lied to her, and I'm ashamed. But what could I say? That I'm in a gilded cage in Dubai, waiting to be used as an incubator for a rich man's heir? It's better she thinks I'm happy. I finished the page and felt everything inside me clench. Anka had written to me, lied that everything was fine, while she herself was locked in that villa, and I knew nothing. If I'd known, what would I have done? Flown to rescue her? With what money? What resources? I'm just an ordinary journalist at a provincial newspaper who barely makes ends meet. No, I couldn't have helped at all, and Anka understood that. That's why she didn't tell the truth. I continued reading, and the entries grew increasingly alarming. I read the next pages of the diary with mounting horror. Anka's handwriting grew more uneven. The letters trembled, as if she were writing in haste or fear. August 10th, 2022. Today I made a mistake. Maybe a fatal one, but I had to do it. I had to learn the truth. It all started 2 weeks ago. The sheikh returned from another trip late in the evening. I was already asleep but woke to voices downstairs. Men's voices, loud, agitated. Speaking in Arabic, I didn't understand the words, but the intonations were angry, threatening. I got up, cracked open my bedroom door. Several people passed through the corridor below, the sheikh and three men in dark suits. They entered his study, the door slammed. Then they started shouting again. The conversation lasted over an hour. I didn't sleep, just lay there listening. Around 3 a.m., they came out. I peeked through the crack in the door. The men were leaving. The sheikh walked them to the exit. On his face was an expression I'd never seen before. Hard, cold, dangerous. At breakfast, I asked casually, "Is everything all right? I heard voices last night." The sheikh looked up at me, a long, appraising stare. "Business negotiations, nothing interesting." At 3 in the morning? "In my business, time doesn't matter." He rose from the table and left without finishing. I remained alone with an unpleasant feeling in my chest. Something wasn't right. Since then, I started noticing strange things. The sheikh began closing himself in his study more often. Sometimes at night I heard the sound of cars pulling up, voices, footsteps. Once I woke to a woman's scream, sharp, frightened. Ran out to the corridor, but a guard blocked my way. "Return to your bedroom, madam. You imagined it." I heard a scream. Television in the servants' room. They were watching a horror film. Sorry for the disturbance. I didn't believe it. But what could I do? Argue with an armed guard? Today the sheikh left early in the morning for Abu Dhabi. Said he wouldn't return until tomorrow evening. I waited until lunch, when most of the servants are resting, and went to his study. The door was locked. I knew that. But I also knew where Maria kept the keys. I'd once seen her take a key ring from a cabinet drawer in the corridor. I waited until Maria went to the kitchen, quickly opened the cabinet, took the right key. My heart pounded so hard I could hear the pulse in my ears. Opened the study, slipped inside, closed the door behind me. The room was large, austere, a massive dark wood desk, bookcases along the walls, a safe in the corner, a computer on the desk, windows facing the garden, blinds down. I didn't touch the safe. It needs a code. The computer was also password protected, but the desk drawers opened. First drawer, documents in Arabic, contracts, invoices, business papers, nothing interesting. Second drawer, the same. The third drawer was locked, a small lock but sturdy. I tried to pick it with a hairpin, had seen it done in movies. Didn't work, so I just pulled the drawer harder. The lock cracked, the drawer slid out. Inside lay a folder, thick with a rubber band. I opened it with trembling hands. Photographs, many photographs. Women, Europeans, Slavs, blondes, brunettes, redheads. Different ages, but all young, from 20 to 40. Beautiful. In each photo, the woman looked at the camera, like for a passport. I started turning over the pictures. On the back of each were written names, dates, numbers, some notes in English. First photograph, a blonde with blue eyes. On the back, Katerina Volkova, Ukraine, Odessa, 2019. Status, completed. Second, a redhead with freckles, Irina Novak, Czech Republic, Prague, 2020. Status, completed. Third, dark-haired, Svetlana Morozova, Belarus, Minsk, 2021. Status, completed. I kept flipping. 23 photographs, 23 women, all with status completed. And the last photograph in the folder, mine, the very one Fatima had taken in Perm before departure, supposedly for documents. On the back, Anna Kovalyova, Russia, Perm, 2022. Status, active. What does this mean? What does status completed mean? And why am I active? My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the photographs. I quickly took out my phone, photographed several pictures and the inscriptions on the back, put everything back in the folder, in the drawer, tried to close the broken lock, but it wouldn't hold. Damn, the sheikh will see someone broke in. I left the study, locked the door, returned the key, ran to my room, sat on the bed, trying to catch my breath and calm down. What was that? A collection of former wives? But Fatima said the sheikh only had one wife, who died. Then who are these women? I opened my phone, looked at the photographed images, zoomed in. The women's faces looked at me from the screen. They looked frightened. Even in these formal shots, there was fear in their eyes. That evening, I couldn't eat. Sat at the table, moved food around my plate with a fork. Maria asked if I was sick. I waved her off, just tired, the heat. When I lay down to sleep, I couldn't close my eyes. I have to find out who these women are. Have to understand what's happening. Tomorrow I'll get to it. I have internet access. I'll find at least some information. I turned the page. The next entry was dated a week later. August 17, 2022. I found them. Or rather, found information about 3 of them. And I'm scared. Very scared. The last 7 days I've been searching the internet at night, typed in the names I saw on the photographs, searched in news, on social media, everywhere I could, and I found them. Katerina Volkova from Odessa, 32 years old, disappeared in July 2019, last seen leaving Women's Correctional Colony number 54, where she was serving a sentence for fraud, got into a black car and vanished. The missing person case was closed after a year. No leads, no witnesses. Parents filed reports, searched through volunteers, posted notices, no results. Irina Novak from Prague, 28 years old, disappeared in August 2020 after release from Pancrac prison, where she'd served time for theft, walked out the prison gates and dissolved into nothing. Cameras captured her getting into a taxi, but no one found the taxi. No relatives, no one to search for her. Svetlana Morozova from Minsk, 35 years old, disappeared in May 2021. Also a former prisoner, served time for drugs. After release, she was supposed to come to her sister in Gomel, but didn't arrive. Phone didn't answer, didn't appear at her registered address. 3 women, 3 stories, all released from prisons, all disappeared without a trace, and all are in the photographs in the sheikh's study. Coincidence? I don't believe it. I tried to find information about the other women from the photos, but I couldn't make out all the names. The handwriting on the back was small. Found 2 more, both missing, both former prisoners. The pattern is obvious. The sheikh is somehow connected to these disappearances. Maybe he kidnapped them? But why? He's rich. He has me. Why does he need so many women? And the main question, what happened to them? Why status completed? Completed how? Did they leave? Die? Were they killed? God, what have I gotten myself into? This morning, Fatima came. We sat in the living room, drinking tea. I decided to do it. Fatima, I want to ask you something, and please answer honestly. She looked at me attentively. I'm listening. Who are these women? I took out my phone, showed her the photographs I'd taken in the study. I saw their pictures at the sheikh's. They all disappeared, all former prisoners, like me. Fatima's face went pale. She put her cup on the table so abruptly that tea spilled. Where did you get this? You broke into the study? Yes, and I want to know the truth. Who are they? What happened to them? Fatima stood, went to the window, turned away from me, was silent for a long time, then spoke quietly, not turning around. Destroy those photographs, immediately. Forget everything you saw. Otherwise, you'll be next. Next for what? I went to her, grabbed her shoulder, turned her to face me. Fatima, tell me, what's happening? She looked at me, and in her eyes was fear, real, primal fear. Anna, I can't. If I tell, he'll kill me. He'll kill you too. Just do what you're told. Don't ask questions. Don't pry where you shouldn't. And then, maybe, you'll be all right. Maybe? I felt everything inside me turn to ice. So there are no guarantees. There are never guarantees. Fatima pulled away from my hands. There are no guarantees in this world at all, especially for people like us. What do you mean, people like us? Women with no past, no family, no money, no protection. No one looks for us. We're convenient. Understand? She grabbed her purse and headed for the exit. At the door, she stopped, turned back. I warned you. The rest is your choice. But no, if you keep digging, the end will be bad. For all of us. She left. I stood in the middle of the living room, my legs buckling. What did she mean? What does the sheikh do with these women? That evening, I sat in my bedroom and thought. The options were simple and terrifying. First, human trafficking. The sheikh buys women, then sells them to someone else, to wealthy Arabs for harems, or worse. Second, he uses them for something, then kills them. But for what? Organs? No, too primitive for a person of his level. Third, he's simply a sadist, a collector, gathers women, entertains himself with them, then disposes of them when he gets bored. Any of the options meant I was in mortal danger. I have to get out of here, at any cost. But how? They took my passport. I have money on a card, but I can only withdraw it with the sheikh's permission. The card is linked to his account. The gates are guarded. The phone is monitored. I'm almost certain. I'm trapped, and the walls of this trap are closing in. I looked up from the diary, stood from the table. My legs were numb from sitting so long. Outside the window, it was fully light. Gray perm morning, rain tapping on the glass. An ordinary scene. And I was reading about a nightmare happening thousands of kilometers away. Anka had fallen into a trap. To a maniac or human trafficker, didn't matter. What mattered was she'd realized it too late. I went to the window, looked down at the courtyard, and froze. There, by the entrance, stood a man in a black coat, the same one I'd seen yesterday evening. He was looking at my apartment windows, talking on the phone. My heart beat faster. Were they really watching me? Were the sheikh's people already here, in Perm? Or was I imagining things? Maybe it was just an ordinary passerby talking on the phone in the rain. I stepped back from the window, returned to the table, picked up the diary. I needed to finish it, find out what happened to Anka next, how she got out, if she got out at all. I opened the diary to the next page, and my hand trembled. The handwriting had changed, became uneven, nervous, letters jumping across the lines. August 25th, 2022. Today, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I tried to escape, and they caught me. It all started 3 days ago. I contacted an organization called Path to Freedom through the internet. They help victims of human trafficking escape from Gulf countries. Wrote to them through an anonymous messenger with a foreign IP address. Found a way to bypass surveillance. They answered quickly. Said they'd help. That such cases aren't rare. That they have contacts in the consulate, in the police. I just needed to get outside the villa gates. We arranged for tonight. A car was supposed to wait for me 2 kilometers from the villa, at a gas station on the road toward the airport. I had to get there myself. The plan was simple. At night, during my usual walk in the garden, the sheikh let me walk the grounds after 10 p.m. when the heat subsides. I was supposed to approach the far wall. There's a camera blind spot there. I'd checked several times. Cut the alarm wires with scissors I'd stolen from the gardener's shed. Climb over the wall, only 10 feet I could manage, and run through the desert to the gas station. I prepared for 3 days. Hid a bottle of water near the wall in the bushes, sneakers, dark clothes. Memorized the route from the map on my phone. 2 kilometers as the crow flies, 15 minutes at a brisk walk. This evening I went out for my walk as usual. The guard nodded to me, paying no attention. I walked every evening. He was used to it. I reached the far end of the garden. Looked around. No one. Got the prepared items from the bushes, changed clothes, approached the wall. Alarm wires ran along the top edge. I pulled over a garden ladder I'd also hidden in advance, climbed up, cut the wires with scissors. Snip, snip, silence. The alarm didn't go off. I was already swinging my leg over the wall when I heard voices. Turned around, 3 guards running toward the wall, flashlights in their hands. They spotted me. But how? I checked the cameras. I jumped down to the other side of the wall. The impact sent pain through my ankles, ran into the darkness toward the road. Shouts behind me, dogs barking, flashlight beams. They're pursuing. I ran with all my might. The sand underfoot was soft. I sank in, stumbled. My lungs burned. A stitch in my side. Ahead, the gas station lights appeared. Just a little bit more, and then they caught me. A guard knocked me down, pressed me into the sand. I screamed, struggled. A second guard pressed something cold against my neck. A taser. "Don't move, madam, or I'll shock you." I froze. They lifted me, twisted my arms behind my back, led me back to the villa. At the gates stood the sheikh, in a white dish dasha, calm, even smiling. "Anna, Anna." He shook his head when they brought me. "Why did you do this? I warned you. Don't ask questions. Don't try to leave, but you didn't listen. Let me go." I looked him in the eyes, trying not to show fear. "I want to go home, to Russia. Give me back my passport." "I'm afraid that's impossible." The sheikh nodded to the guards. "Take her to the basement. Let her think about her behavior." They dragged me into the house, down the stairs, to the basement, whose existence I didn't even know about. A small room with stone floor, bare walls, 1 bulb on the ceiling. They threw me on the floor, locked the door. I've been sitting here for several hours, cold, dark, frightening. What will he do to me? Kill me? Or something worse? Marishka, if you ever read this, forgive me. I didn't want this. I just wanted to get out, start over, return to normal life. But it seems that's not in the cards for me. The next page was blank, then another. I kept turning pages, my heart sinking. Was this the end? Had Anka stopped writing? But on the 7th blank page, I found a new entry. The handwriting was barely legible, trembling, uneven, as if she'd written in complete darkness by feel. August 30th, 2022. Not sure exactly, lost track of time. They've been keeping me in the basement for 5 days. Or 6, not sure. They feed me once a day, bring rice and water, toilet, a bucket in the corner, like in prison. Worse than prison. The sheikh came yesterday, or the day before, said I disappointed him greatly, that he offered me paradise and I chose hell, that now I'll learn what real punishment is. I asked, what is he going to do? He only smiled. You'll find out, soon. This morning guards came for me, took me from the basement, put me in a car, blindfolded me, drove for a long time, several hours. I heard the engine noise, felt the jostling on a bad road. When we stopped, they pulled me from the car, removed the blindfold. I looked around, desert all around. Nothing but sand to the horizon. Unbearable heat, over 120 degrees. A guard gave me a canister of water, 5 liters. Walk, he said in English. If you reach civilization, you're free. If not, then so Allah willed. The car turned around and left. I remained alone, in the middle of the desert, without food, without a map, without a phone, only the water canister and the clothes on me. I understood, this is execution, slow, agonizing death from thirst and sun. He doesn't want to dirty his hands, just left me to die in the desert, Those women in the photographs, they were all here, all died the same way, in the sands, alone. Their bodies are still somewhere here, buried under the dunes. I don't want to die like this, Mariska. I don't want to. But there's no choice. I'm writing this while I can still hold the pen. I'll leave the diary here, in the desert. Maybe someone will find it. Maybe the world will learn the truth about Sheikh Rashid al-Mansour, that he's a murderer, a maniac, a monster in human form. Forgive me. Forgive me for not listening to you back then. Remember, you said, don't get involved with Maxim, it'll end badly. You were right, and here I am, paying for all my mistakes at once. I love you. You're the best friend I ever had, the only one who didn't betray me. Goodbye. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I wiped them with my palm, turned the page. Blank. Another one. Also blank. So that was it. Anka had died there, in the desert, alone, in agony. And I knew nothing, lived my life, worked, drank coffee in the mornings, and didn't suspect that my best friend was slowly dying under the scorching sun thousands of kilometers away. I was about to close the diary when I noticed there were a few more pages at the end. Flipped through and froze. A new entry, different handwriting, more confident. January 15, 2023. I'm alive. I read on, not believing my eyes. The handwriting was different, firmer, more confident than in the previous entries, as if Anka was writing no longer in despair, but with some strange determination. January 15, 2023. I'm alive. I don't know how, but I'm alive. And I have to write this down while I remember the details, before I forget what I went through. After they left me in the desert, I walked. Just walked randomly, choosing a direction by the sun. I remembered from school geography lessons that if you walk north, sooner or later you'll reach the Persian Gulf Coast, or a road, or some settlement. The first day I was full of strength, drank water in small sips, conserved it, walked when the sun wasn't at its zenith, early morning and toward evening. Midday I hid from the heat, digging a hole in the sand and covering myself with clothes. All around was emptiness, dunes, sand, rocks, no plants, no animals, no traces of humans, only me, the sky, an endless yellow desert. By evening of the first day, I'd probably covered 10 kilometers, maybe 15. My feet hurt, my lips cracked, but I was alive. Thought, 1 or 2 more days and I'll get out. At night it was cold. The temperature dropped to freezing. I shivered, curled into a ball, trying to warm up. Barely slept, afraid I'd freeze. On the second day, the water ran out. I drank the last sip around noon and understood. That's it. Now I had maximum 1 day before dehydration. I forced myself to keep going, but strength melted away. Every step came with difficulty. The sand seemed viscous. It sucked at my feet. The sun beat down on my head, turning my brain into boiling mush. By evening of the second day, I fell, just collapsed on the sand and couldn't get up. Muscles gave out. My mouth was a desert, so dry my tongue stuck to my palate, lips bleeding. I lay there looking at the sky. Stars came out one after another, bright, cold, indifferent, beautiful. I thought, at least I'll die under a starry sky. Not in a prison cell, not in the villa basement, but here, under the open sky. Closed my eyes, decided I wouldn't open them again. Easier to let go, stop fighting. And then I heard voices. At first I thought, hallucination? Dehydration has that effect, I'd read. The brain starts producing images, sounds that aren't there. But the voices were getting closer. I lifted my head, barely unsticking my eyelids. People. 3 men in long robes, with staffs in their hands, walking between dunes, leading camels, Bedouins, desert nomads. I tried to shout, but only a rasp came from my throat. waved my hand. One of the men noticed the movement, pointed me out to the others. They approached. The eldest, an elderly man with a gray beard, bent over me, said something in Arabic. I didn't understand. He turned to his companions. They all started talking at once. Then the old man took out a water flask, lifted my head, brought the flask to my lips. I drank greedily, choked, coughed, but drank. The water was warm, with a strange aftertaste, but seemed tastier than champagne. I drank almost all of it. The old man took back the flask, shook his head, smiling. Slowly, slowly, he said in English with a heavy accent. Drink much at once. Bad. They lifted me, put me on a camel, tied me so I wouldn't fall, led me somewhere. After that I remember vaguely, swaying on the camel, heat, half sleep, half delirium, faces, voices, noise. Then darkness, woke in a tent, lay on a carpet, covered with a blanket. A woman in black leaned over me, only eyes visible. She said something in Arabic, stroked my arm. I tried to get up, but she gently but insistently laid me back down, brought a cup with some liquid to my mouth. I drank, warm milk, sweet, with spices. Fell asleep again. When I woke the next time, it was dark. I lay alone in the tent, lit by an oil lamp, tried to sit up, managed, though my head spun. Looked around. The tent was large, with carpets on the floor, pillows, low tables. Smelled of smoke, spices, something else unfamiliar. From outside came voices, laughter, sounds of music. I stood on cotton legs, made it to the exit, lifted the flap. Outside was a small camp, several tents, a fire with people sitting around it, men, women, children, talking, eating, drinking from cups. Camels lay nearby, chewing cud. Overhead the starry sky, so bright the Milky Way was visible like a white river. The old man who found me sat by the fire, noticed me, waved his hand. Come here. I approached, sat on a carpet nearby. He handed me a cup, tea, strong, sweet. How are you? He asked in English. Alive. I forced a smile. Thank you. You saved my life. Allah led us to you. The old man nodded. We simply fulfilled his will. How did you find me? In the middle of the desert. We roam here. He spread his hands. This is our land. We know every dune, every stone. Saw your tracks from far away. Went to look. I drank tea, feeling warmth spread through my body. Was silent, not knowing what to say. You're not the first, the old man suddenly said quietly. We sometimes find people in the desert, men, women, Europeans, some alive, some dead. I shuddered. Dead? Yes, the desert doesn't forgive mistakes. People come here unprepared, die from heat, from thirst. We bury them according to our customs, pray for their souls. And the living? You save them? If we find them in time, yes, give water, food, heal them, then take them to the city, or they stay with us if they have nowhere to go. Can I stay with you? Burst from me, at least for a while. The old man looked at me with a long, appraising gaze. You're running from someone. It wasn't a question, a statement. Yes, I nodded. From a very dangerous person. He's looking for me. If he finds me, he'll kill me. This person is rich, influential? Very. The old man was silent, looking into the fire. We're simple people. We live by the laws of the desert, not cities. The rich and influential don't interest us. If you want, stay. You'll work, help the women. We'll give you shelter and protection. I barely held back tears. Thank you. I'll work. I'll do everything you say. That's how my new life began. Life in the desert, with Bedouins. The first weeks were hard. I was recovering. Sunburns healed slowly, skin peeling in layers. Dehydration caused kidney complications. An old woman named Fatma, not that Fatima from Dubai, a different one, treated me with herbs, infusions, fed me camel milk, gave me dates and flatbread. When I got stronger, I started helping with chores, carried water from the well. The tribe moved from one water source to another, knowing all the wells in the desert, cooked food over the fire, washed clothes, helped take down and set up tents when the tribe moved. Life was simple, measured. Up at dawn, work until noon, rest in the heat, work again in evening, dinner by the fire, stories from the elders, songs to the sounds of some stringed instrument like a lute, sleep under the stars, no phones, internet, televisions, no news of the outside world, only desert, sky, and people around. I started learning Arabic, conversational Bedouin dialect. The women taught me, laughed at my pronunciation, but patiently repeated words. After a month, I could explain myself on everyday topics. After 3, understood most conversations. The elder called Sheikh Khalid, not to be confused with Sheikh Rashid. It's just a title of respect among Bedouins. Sometimes talked with me in the evenings. "You're strong," he said once. "Many European women would have broken, but you hold on." I had no choice, I shrugged. Hold on or die. There's always a choice. You chose life. That's commendable. I want to return home someday, I confessed. To Russia, to my friend. But I don't know how. They're looking for me. I have no passport, money, documents. Time heals. Sheikh Khalid drew on a hookah. In a year, 2, the person looking for you will forget, or die, or find another victim. Then you can return. And if he doesn't forget, then the desert will become your home. There are worse fates. I thought about this for a long time. Spend the rest of my life in the desert. Never see Marinka, Perm, Russia. Not drink coffee at my favorite cafe on the Kama embankment. Not walk the streets of my hometown. But the alternative was one, death at Sheikh Rashid's hands. I chose life, even this kind. 3 months I lived with the tribe, got used to the heat, the sand, the simple food, learned to milk camels, weave carpets, make flatbread on heated stones, became friends with the tribe's women. They accepted me as their own. But one day Sheikh Khalid told me, "We saw jeeps in the desert, black, expensive, looking for someone. Maybe you." My heart sank. Close? 20 kilometers from our camp, but they're getting closer. We're leaving tomorrow at dawn, deeper into the desert where they won't risk going. I lay down to sleep that night, but couldn't close my eyes. So Sheikh Rashid was still looking for me. Hadn't forgotten, hadn't given up. He wanted to make sure I was dead, or find me and kill me with his own hands. In the morning, we broke camp and went deeper into the desert. Walked 3 days until we reached a place where there was nothing but rocks and sand, not even wells nearby. Water carried in goat skins on camels. "Here we're safe," Sheikh Khalid said. "Outsiders don't come here. Too dangerous." I stayed with the tribe another 6 months, gradually calmed down. The jeeps didn't appear again. Maybe Sheikh Rashid really decided I died in the desert, maybe just lost interest. And then something happened that changed everything. A wanderer came to the camp, a young man about 30, European with a backpack and camera, a journalist from Germany studying Bedouin life for a report. We talked. He was surprised to meet a Russian woman here. I told him part of the truth, that I'd fled from domestic violence, was hiding. He didn't ask unnecessary questions. "Do you know you can get documents through the consulate?" he said. "Even if your passport is lost, you just need to apply, prove your identity." "I have no money for travel," I sighed. "I can help." He took out a business card. "I know people in Oman, volunteers who help refugees. I can contact them. They'll organize travel, documents." I took the card with trembling hands. Why do you want to help me? Because I can, and because it's right. A month later, he returned, brought contacts, instructions, arranged with a volunteer organization in Oman. They were ready to receive me. I said goodbye to the tribe. It was hard. They'd become family to me over these months. The women cried, hugged me. Sheikh Khalid blessed me for the journey. Go in peace, daughter of the desert, and remember, if you need refuge, we're always here. The German journalist drove me to Oman in his jeep, handed me over to volunteers. They got me temporary documents, gave money for travel. Through the Russian consulate, I got a new passport, said I'd lost the old one. Now I'm in Europe, in a small town in Portugal, where nobody knows me, working in a library under a false name, living quietly, unobtrusively, and writing this diary, the final entry. Mariska, if you're reading this, it means the diary reached you. I sent it through channels via acquaintances. A long journey, first to Oman, then to Dubai to reliable people, then to Russia. I can't return. Sheikh Rashid is still looking for me. I know this. He has long arms, lots of money, connections everywhere. If I appear in Russia, he'll know. And then it's over. But you need to know the truth, need to know I'm alive, and that Sheikh Rashid al-Mansour is a murderer, a monster. He killed 23 women, maybe more, left them to die in the desert. I don't know what you can do with this. Maybe nothing. Maybe you'll publish this story and the world will know. Maybe you'll just keep the diary as a memory of me. You decide. But remember, if you start an investigation, be careful. The Sheikh is dangerous. His people might come for you too. Live, Mariska. Rejoice in every day. Drink coffee on the embankment for both of us. Look at the comma and remember me. Someday, maybe, we'll see each other. When it's all over, when the Sheikh dies or goes to prison, then I'll come home, to Perm, to you, but for now, goodbye, your Anka. P.S. If I still don't survive, if this letter reached you but I'm no longer alive, tell everyone the truth. Publish the diary. Let other girls not repeat my mistakes. Let them know that behind the beautiful picture of luxury, death can be hiding. I closed the diary. Tears ran down my cheeks, but I didn't wipe them. Just sat and looked out the window at the gray Perm dawn. Anka was alive, somewhere in Portugal, under a false name, living in fear, but living, and in my hands, her story, proof of Sheikh Rashid's crimes. What should I do with this? I sat in the kitchen, holding Anka's diary, not knowing what to do. Outside the window, it was fully light. Perm was waking, voices heard in the courtyard, noise of cars on the road, a dog barking at the neighboring entrance. An ordinary morning in an ordinary city, and I held a bomb in my hands, proof that one of the Emirates' wealthiest men was a serial killer. My phone vibrated on the table. I flinched, grabbed it. Text from the editor-in-chief of our newspaper. Marina, where's the Dubai material? Waiting by noon. Don't let me down. I looked at the screen and smirked. Dubai material. Interviews with successful immigrants about how they opened businesses and bought villas. A boring story for common folk who dream of getting rich. But I had a real story. A story about how behind the beautiful facade of luxury, hell was hiding. But what could I do? Publish in Kamsky Reporter? Our paper has 50,000 readers, mostly retirees. It wouldn't change anything. Take it to the police? But what evidence did I have? A diary that could be a forgery. Photos on a phone that could be photoshopped. No bodies, no physical evidence. Only words. And most importantly, if I started an investigation, the Sheikh's people would find out and come for me. Anka had warned about this in her letter. I stood, went to the window, looked down at the courtyard. The man in the black coat was still standing by the entrance. Now he wasn't talking on the phone, just standing and looking at the windows. My heart clenched. Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe it was just a passerby waiting for someone. Or not. I stepped back from the window, returned to the table, opened my laptop, typed in the search engine, Sheikh Rashid Al Mansour. Dozens of links appeared. Photos, him at business meetings, at receptions, at openings of new real estate properties, articles about his business, investments, philanthropy, interviews where he talked about plans for UAE economic development, smiling face, expensive suits, handshakes with politicians and businessmen. I looked at the photo in Anka's diary. Same face, just without the smile. Continued searching. Typed, missing women UAE Dubai. Few results. A few brief notes that foreign women sometimes disappear in the Emirates without a trace. But there were no investigations. Cases were quickly closed, attributed to voluntary departure or accidents. I typed the names I'd seen in the diary. Katerina Volkova, Irina Novak, Svetlana Morozova. Found old articles about their disappearances. In all cases, the investigation hit a dead end. The women vanished, as if dissolved into thin air. I took screenshots of the articles, saved the links, then opened my email and started writing a letter. Addressee, Amnesty International, the international human rights organization that investigates human rights violations worldwide. Hello, my name is Marina Solovyova. I'm a journalist from Russia. I have information about serial murders of women in the United Arab Emirates. I'm attaching my friend's diary. She became a victim of human trafficking and miraculously survived. The diary contains names, dates, descriptions of crimes. I ask you to review this case and begin an investigation. I attached to the email photographs of all the diary pages I'd shot on my phone, screenshots of articles about the missing women, and my contact information. My finger hovered over the send button. If I pressed this button, there would be no going back. An investigation would begin. The sheikh would find out. His people would come. But if I didn't press it, 23 women would remain forgotten, dead and forgotten, and the sheikh would continue looking for new victims. I remembered Anka, how we sat on the dorm roof at 17, smoked cigarettes, and dreamed of changing the world. How she said, "Marishka, we're journalists. Our job is to tell the truth, even when it's dangerous." I pressed send. The email went out. I closed the laptop, leaned back in my chair, and exhaled. Done. Now all that's left is to wait. The phone rang. Unknown number, international code. I stared at the screen for a long time, not daring to answer. Maybe it was them? The sheikh's people? Finally picked up. Hello? Marina Solovyova? A man's voice, Arabic accent. Yes? We know you have Anna Kovalyova's diary. We want it back. Blood froze in my veins. Who are you? It doesn't matter. What matters is that the diary belongs to us. It contains confidential information that could harm the reputation of a respected person. Information about murders, you mean? Pause. I see you've read the diary. Then you must understand. Publishing it is dangerous for you and your loved ones. Is that a threat? It's a warning. Meeting today at noon, Gorky Park by the Central Fountain. Come alone. Bring the diary. We'll take it and disappear. You'll continue living your life. Everyone will be safe. And if I refuse? You won't refuse, because we know where you live, and we know where your mother lives in Kungur, your brother Alexander in Yekaterinburg, your niece Katya, who's 4 years old. She goes to kindergarten number 12 on Lenin Street. Every morning your sister-in-law Olga brings her at exactly 8:30. I felt everything inside me clench with horror. They knew everything, Absolutely everything. Don't touch them, I whispered. They're not to blame. We don't want to touch anyone. We just want back what belongs to us. Noon, park, fountain, don't be late. The line went dead. I set the phone on the table. My hands were shaking. Inside was icy cold. They really were here. In Perm. Watching me. Knew about my family. Ready to harm them if I didn't comply. What should I do? There weren't many options. Give them the diary and hope they'd leave me alone, or refuse and endanger Mom, my brother, my niece. I picked up the phone, dialed my brother's number. He answered after the third ring. Marinka, what's wrong calling so early? Sasha, listen carefully. Don't ask questions. Just do what I say. Pick up Katya from daycare yourself today. Don't let Olga go alone. And in general, try not to leave the house unnecessarily for a few days. What? Marinka, what are you talking about? Please, it's important, very important. I can't explain right now. Just do it. You're scaring me. I know, I'm sorry, but please, just listen to me, okay? He was silent. Okay, I'll pick up Katya myself, and I'll call Mom. Tell her to be careful too, but you'll explain everything later. I will, I promise. I hung up. At least that was something. At least I'd warned them. But it wasn't enough. If the Sheikh's people really wanted to harm them, they'd find a way. Sooner or later. I looked at the clock. 9 a.m., 3 hours until the meeting in the park. What to do? Go, hand over the diary, or run to the police? The phone rang again, this time a Russian number, Moscow area code. Hello? Marina Solovyova? My name is Elena Krylova. I'm a senior investigator with the Prosecutor General's Office of the Russian Federation. We received your submission to Amnesty International. They forwarded it to us. Can we talk? I almost dropped the phone in surprise. Yes, of course. Tell me, do you really have Anna Kovalyova's diary and information about murders of women in the UAE? Yes, it's all true. I have the diary. I read it. Good. We need to meet in person. Look at the diary, take your testimony. Can you come to Moscow? I can't. They already found me. The Sheikh's people. They're demanding the diary back today at noon, threatening my family. The investigator was silent for a moment. I see. Then we'll come to you. Where are you now? Home, in Perm, Kuibyshev Street. Stay there. Don't open the door to anyone except me. I'll be there in 2 hours. I'll fly on the first flight. And meanwhile, send me photos of all the diary pages by email, in case something goes wrong. She dictated an address. I wrote it down. Will you really help? This isn't just a formality. We've been working on this case for a month already, the investigator said. We have information about Sheikh Rashid al-Mansour's connections with Russian criminal groups, about kidnappings of women from former USSR countries. Your diary is the missing piece of the puzzle. With it, we can take this international, bring in Interpol. So yes, we'll help, and we'll protect you and your family. I exhaled. Thank you. I'm sending the photos right now. The next hour, I photographed every page of the diary, every note, every detail, sent them to the investigator's email, made backup copies on a flash drive, in cloud storage, on a hard drive. If they took the diary or destroyed it, at least the copies would remain. At 11 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole. A woman about 40 in a strict suit, with ID in hand. Next to her, 2 men in uniform. Marina Solovyova, Elena Krylova, Prosecutor General's Office. May we come in? I opened the door. They entered the apartment. The investigator looked around, nodded to her escorts. Stay in the hallway. Make sure no one comes in. The men left. The investigator sat at the table where the diary lay. This is it? Yes. She put on gloves, carefully picked up the diary, began flipping through it. read attentively, sometimes nodding, sometimes frowning. Do you understand that with this diary you've become the chief witness in an international case? She said finally, closing the notebook. I understand. And understand that you're in danger? Yes, they already called me, demanded I hand over the diary in exchange for my family's safety. What did you answer? Nothing, hung up, and then wrote to you. The investigator nodded. You did the right thing. These people can't be trusted. Even if you'd given them the diary, there's no guarantee they would have left you alone. Most likely would have eliminated you as a witness. A chill ran down my spine. What should I do now? Come with us to Moscow. Give testimony officially. We'll arrange protection for you, place you in a safe location. We'll take your family under protection too, and then we'll start an international investigation. Reach out to Interpol, to UAE law enforcement. With such evidence, Sheikh Rashid can be imprisoned. And Anka, my friend who wrote the diary, she's in Portugal under a false name. Is she safe? We'll find her and take her under protection too. She's an important witness, maybe the only one who survived and can testify. I looked at the diary lying on the table, worn leather cover, uneven entries, a story of survival, fear, hope. Anka had taken a risk to tell the truth, and now it was my turn to risk. For her, for the 23 murdered women, for those who might become the next victim if I stayed silent. All right, I said firmly. I'll go with you. I'll testify. I'll do whatever's needed. The investigator smiled. Brave decision. Get ready. In an hour, we're leaving for the airport. Take only essentials. You won't need the rest. I packed a small bag. Documents, clothes for a couple days, phone charger, left everything else. In the hallway, I turned, looked at my apartment. Small, cramped, but home. Didn't know when I'd return here, if I'd return at all. Let's go, the investigator called. We left the building. At the entrance stood a car with tinted windows. 2 guards opened the doors. I turned back one last time and saw him, the man in the black coat. He stood across the street looking at us, took out his phone, started dialing. Quickly, into the car, the investigator commanded. We got in. The car lurched forward. I looked through the rear window as my house receded, my courtyard, the man in the black coat. The choice was made. No going back. Now the real fight begins. The plane landed at Moscow's Domodedovo airport toward evening. I looked out the window at the lights of the capital spread below in an endless sea of light and felt strange, as if in a few hours my life had split into before and after. Before I opened the envelope with Anka's diary, and after. Investigator Krylova sat beside me, reviewing something on a tablet. She'd worked the whole way, making calls, sending messages. Businesslike, composed, confident. I envied that confidence. Now we'll go to a safe apartment, she said when we left the plane. There you'll give official testimony. We'll record everything, draw up a protocol. Then we'll decide what to do next. We were met by 2 men in plain clothes. They led us through a service exit, put us in a black SUV with tinted windows. Moscow beyond the windows looked alien and indifferent. Avenues, high-rises, endless traffic. The apartment was in a residential building on the outskirts, in the Yasenevo district. An ordinary 3-room apartment in a panel 9-story building. Unremarkable from outside, but inside with a reinforced door, bars on windows, security cameras. Make yourself comfortable. Krylova gestured to the sofa. Want tea? Coffee? Coffee, please. She went to the kitchen, returned with 2 mugs, sat opposite me at the table, took out a recorder. Let's begin. Tell me everything from the beginning. How you received the diary, what you read in it, what you did next. I talked for over an hour about the envelope in the mailbox, about every page of the diary, about the threatening phone call, about the man in the black coat under my windows. Krylova listened attentively, sometimes asked clarifying questions, wrote in a notebook. "You did well not to panic," she said when I finished. "Many in your position would have simply given up the diary and tried to forget everything. But you chose truth." Did I have a choice? I looked her in the eyes. 23 murdered women, Anka, who miraculously survived. How could I stay silent? You could have. People stay silent about far more terrible things when it concerns their safety. Then what's the point of being a journalist? I shrugged. Our job is to tell the truth, even when it's scary. Krylova nodded. That's exactly why I'm confident we'll succeed, with witnesses like you. The next 2 days I spent in that apartment, giving testimony, signing protocols, looking at photos of women found in missing persons databases, identifying them from pictures in Anka's diary: Katerina Volkova, Irina Novak, Svetlana Morozova, 10 more women whose names we could establish, all Slavic, all former prisoners, all disappeared without a trace between 2014 and 2022. On the third day, Krylova announced news. "We found your friend, Anna Kovalyova. She really is in Portugal, in the town of Sintra near Lisbon, living under the name Elena Sokolova, working in a library. Our colleagues from Interpol already contacted her. She's agreed to testify." My heart beat faster. "She's alive? She's all right?" "Alive, frightened, but alive. Says she's been afraid all this time that the sheikh would find her, but she's ready to tell everything she knows if it helps put him away." "Can I talk to her?" Krylova took out her phone, dialed a number, turned on speaker. Long rings. Then a familiar voice I hadn't heard in 3 years. "Hello?" "Anka." I felt tears rising in my throat. "It's me, Marinka." Pause. Then a sob on the other end of the line. "Marishka, my God, you got the diary?" "I got it. I read it. Sent it to the prosecutor's office. Now the investigation begins." "Are you crazy?" Anka's voice trembled. "I wrote, 'Be careful. They're dangerous.'" "I know. They already came. But I'm under protection. The investigator says with my testimony and your diary, the sheikh can be imprisoned." "Marishka, I'm scared. So many years hiding, and now everything will come out. He'll find out I'm alive. He'll send people." "He won't," Krylova interjected. "Anna, this is investigator Elena Krylova. You're under Interpol protection. Portuguese police have already posted guards near your house. In 2 days, you'll be brought to Moscow to testify. We'll ensure complete safety." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. We have enough evidence to open an international criminal case. UAE authorities have already been notified. Sheikh Rashid is now under investigation. His assets frozen, passport confiscated. He's not going anywhere." I heard Anka breathing deeply, trying to calm down. "All right, I'll fly. I'll tell everything. Just promise, protect Marinka. She got dragged into all this because of me." "We will," Krylova said firmly. "I give my word." The conversation ended. I sat staring at the wall, not believing this was really happening. Anka was alive, coming to Moscow soon. We'd see each other after 3 years apart. On the fourth day, something happened I didn't expect. Krylova entered the room with a tablet in hand, her face serious. "Marina, we need to talk. I have news, good and bad." I straightened on the sofa. "Start with the bad." "This morning in Perm there was an incident. The man in the black coat who was watching you tried to break into your brother's apartment. Security detained him. During the search they found a weapon. He's now in a temporary detention facility, giving testimony." Blood froze in my veins. My brother, my niece, Are they all right? Yes, we evacuated them in advance. They're in a safe place, under guard. Everything's under control. I exhaled. And the good news? The detainee talked, named his employers. Turns out it's not the Sheikh's people directly. It's a Russian criminal group that supplies women to Persian Gulf countries. Sheikh Rashid is one of their clients, but not the only one. Now we have access to an entire human trafficking network. She showed me the tablet. On the screen was a diagram, dozens of photos, lines, connections between people in Russia, Ukraine, UAE, Saudi Arabia. This is a huge case, Krylova continued. Hundreds of victims over the last 10 years. Your diary became the key to uncovering the entire network. Right now, arrests are happening simultaneously in 6 countries. Interpol is working around the clock. I looked at the diagram and couldn't believe it. Anka's diary, a few dozen written pages, and they'd triggered an avalanche that buried criminals around the world. What will happen to the Sheikh? UAE authorities arrested him yesterday evening. Charges: murder, human trafficking, kidnapping. Under UAE law, such crimes carry the death penalty, but most likely he'll get life. He has good lawyers, connections, but he'll never leave prison. I closed my eyes. So it was true. The monster was caught. He could never harm anyone again. A week after the trial, Anka flew to Moscow. I met her at the airport with Krylova and security. Saw her in the crowd of passengers, thin, tanned, with short hair instead of long. She'd changed, grown up. In her eyes was a weariness that hadn't been there before. But when our eyes met, she smiled. That same Anka smile I remembered from our youth. Marishka, she rushed to me. We hugged, and I felt tears streaming down my cheeks. My friend, alive, real. Fool, I whispered into her shoulder. Fool, why did you go to that damn Dubai? I'm sorry, she was crying too. I thought I was doing the right thing. Wanted to get rich, not be a burden to you. You were never a burden, never. We stood in the middle of the airport, hugging and crying, while Krylova waited patiently to the side. The next days, Anka gave testimony. Detailed, thorough, terrible. She told about the Sheikh's villa, about the basement, about the desert, about the women in the photographs, about fear, about escape. I sat beside her, held her hand. Sometimes she stopped, couldn't speak. Then I'd pour her water, wait until she calmed down. Thank you for being here, she said one evening when we were alone in the apartment. I don't know if I could have managed without you. We always managed together, I hugged her. Remember how we prepared for exams at university? 3 nights without sleep, on just coffee and cigarettes? I remember, she laughed through tears. Thought I wouldn't pass, but you pulled me through. And now I'll pull you through again, I promise. The trial began 3 months later. International Tribunal in The Hague. Sheikh Rashid al-Mansour was tried for crimes against humanity. Charges: 23 proven murders, dozens of kidnappings, human trafficking. Anka and I testified as chief witnesses. She told her story. I told how I received the diary, what I did. The courtroom was full. Journalists, human rights advocates, victims' relatives. The sheikh sat behind a glass partition in an orange prisoner's jumpsuit, looked at us with a cold gaze, but said nothing. The proceedings lasted 2 months. Witnesses, experts, evidence. Katerina Volkova's mother cried in the courtroom when they showed photos of remains found in the desert. Svetlana Morozova's sister gave testimony in a trembling voice. I looked at all these people and understood. Each of these women had been someone's daughter, sister, friend. Each had her own story, dreams, life, and one person had cut all that short. For what? For power? For pleasure? to feel like a god? The verdict was announced at the end of May: life imprisonment without possibility of pardon, confiscation of all property, payment of compensation to victims' families. The sheikh listened to the verdict standing, without emotion. When the judge finished, he only nodded and allowed himself to be led away by guards. After the trial, Anka and I came out on the tribunal building steps. Journalists surrounded us, showered us with questions. What do you feel? Are you satisfied with the verdict? What do you plan to do next? I looked at Anka. She nodded. You speak. We feel relief, I said into the microphones. Justice has prevailed. The monster is punished. But this won't bring back the lives of the 23 women who died, won't return the years stolen by fear. Do you have a message for women who might find themselves in a similar situation? Anka stepped forward. Don't believe beautiful promises, she said quietly but firmly. Behind luxury and money, hell can be hiding. If someone offers you something too good to be true, most likely it's a trap. Take care of yourselves. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. And remember, you're not alone. There are always those who will help. 6 months after the trial, Anka and I returned to Perm. The city greeted us with cold October rain and gray skies. Nothing had changed. Same streets, buildings, comma embankment. We walked along the embankment, drank coffee from paper cups, looked at the river. You know, Anka said, I dreamed so much of coming back here. 3 years on the run, in fear. Thought I'd never see my hometown. And now you have. How does it feel? Strange, she smiled. Everything's the same, but I'm different. Like I'm not here anymore. You understand? I understand. You went through hell and came back. You can't be the same. We were silent, listening to the sound of water. What will you do next? I asked. I don't know. Maybe I'll stay in Perm, find work, rent an apartment, try to live a normal life, or I'll go to another city, start with a clean slate. Time will tell. And I'll write, I said, a book about you, about those women, about the trial, so people know the truth. Good idea, Anka smiled. Just change the names. I don't want to be famous. I promise. We finished our coffee, threw the cups in a trash can. Anka hugged me. Thank you, Mariska, for everything. You saved my life. You saved yourself, I hugged her back. By writing that diary, by risking telling the truth, I just delivered it to the right people. So we saved each other. So we did. We stood on the comma embankment, two friends who'd been through hell and come back. Above us, gray sky, but somewhere there, beyond the clouds, the sun was shining. And I knew, sooner or later it would break through. It always breaks through, because light always conquers darkness. Truth is always stronger than lies, and friendship and love are invincible. We survived the worst, so we'll survive everything else. Together.